Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled about what we're digging into today because we're about to bridge worlds that, honestly, almost never talk to each other. We are exploring the cutting-edge intersection of gastroenterology, psychology, and quantum physics. We're going to investigate how the fundamental fabric of reality, right down at the subatomic level, might actually be the hidden engine powering your gut, driving your health, your consciousness, and your digestion.
Your gut is so much more than just a digestive organ. It is literally a second brain. And, as modern research is starting to reveal, it might actually run on quantum physics. Now, if that sounds a bit like science fiction, just stick with me here. By the time we wrap up, you are going to see your own biology in a completely different, totally mind-blowing light.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're taking a macro to micro journey. We'll start with the anatomy of the second brain, move into metabolism in the gut, and then explore microbes, mood, and mind. After that, we'll hit the biological speed paradox, solve it with quantum tunneling in biology, and finally bring it all together with the quantum mind-body connection.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Anatomy of the Second Brain, the Physical Foundation. Because to really grasp the quantum mechanics happening down at the microscopic level, we first need to zoom out and understand the macroscopic anatomy of our gut.
Whenever we talk about the second brain, we're actually talking about the enteric nervous system, or the ENS. This is a vast, semi-independent neural network that is embedded directly into the walls of your gastrointestinal tract. And get this, it contains over 100 million neurons. To put that into perspective, that's roughly the same number of neurons you have in your entire spinal cord. It has all the diverse cell types you'd find in the central nervous system, and it can independently regulate your digestive system on a moment-to-moment basis. As we're going to see, coordinating a network of this sheer magnitude makes it the absolute perfect candidate for high-speed quantum phenomena.
What this brilliantly illustrates is the intricate integration between the extrinsic and intrinsic neural controls of the gut. You see, the ENS has these hardwired programs, like the peristaltic reflexes that physically move your food along, and these can run completely independently. But they don't operate in a vacuum. They are constantly communicating with your central nervous system, mainly through the vagus nerve. Think of the vagus nerve as this massive information superhighway connecting your brain and your gut.
That brings us to Section 2, Metabolism and the Gut, the Chemical Engine. We know the physical wiring is absolutely massive, but how exactly does this enormous neural network regulate our everyday metabolic health?
This breakdown here shows us something truly fascinating about the role of insulin in the nervous system. We almost always think of insulin strictly in terms of blood sugar and the pancreas, right? Well, in the brain and the broader nervous system, insulin is actually a master regulator. For glucose homeostasis, it acts centrally to suppress glucose production in the liver. For energy, it dampens sympathetic nervous outflow to regulate how fat is broken down. It even heavily influences cognitive function, playing a major role in memory, neuronal survival, and your mood. So it's really a multifaceted chemical engine that ties our metabolic state directly to our neural wiring.
Now for Section 3, Microbes, Mood, and Mind, the Psychological Gut. We just looked at the metabolic engine, but here is the incredible twist. This exact same system heavily dictates our psychological state. We usually give the brain and our head all the credit for conscious thought and emotion. But your gut, your enteric nervous system, houses more than 90% of your body's serotonin and 50% of its dopamine. Think about that for a second. These are the primary neurotransmitters responsible for your mood, your motivation, and your overall feelings of well-being. So, quite literally, your feelings are being manufactured right there in your gut. And you might be wondering, who is actually running those manufacturing plants? It's your gut microbes. The bacteria in your gut produce over 30 different neurotransmitters. They communicate across this gut-brain bidirectional superhighway using 4 main pathways. First is neural, using the vagus nerve as a direct line. Then there's endocrine, where gut hormones regulate appetite and stress. Third is immune, where microbes interact with immune cells, like the brain's microglia. And finally, metabolic, where microbes produce short-chain fatty acids that actually cross the blood-brain barrier. Your microbiome is actively manipulating your sensory behavior and neural inflammation every single day. Okay, so we've established that the gut and the brain are in constant dialogue, managing these incredibly complex biological, metabolic, and psychological tasks. Which brings us to Section 4, the biological speed paradox. This is where we pivot, because classical biology has a massive scientific mystery on its hands here. I want to pose this question directly to you. Based on the research, how do our nervous systems process information so incredibly fast? Think about it. Coordinating 100 million neurons in the gut
communicating instantly with the brain, managing mood and digestion simultaneously. How does it do all that if classical nerve impulses are, theoretically, way too slow to account for it? Under classical physics, a synaptic transmission takes at least 0.5 milliseconds. And for the unmyelinated fibers in our nervous system, the speed of an action potential can be as slow as 0.5 meters per second. I mean, that is literally a crawl. If you add up the time it takes to cross thousands of synapses using purely classical signals, it just doesn't add up. It simply cannot explain the highly coordinated, ultra-efficient processing of our nervous system. Basically, classical physics leaves us with a conductance deficit.
So the crucial point here is that we have to look deeper. We have to zoom all the way down past the cells, past the molecules, right down to the subatomic level. That brings us to Section 5, Quantum Tunneling in Biology, the micro solution.
When we compare a biological ion channel in a cell membrane to a mathematical representation of a quantum wave packet, things get wild. In classical thermodynamics, ions need a significant amount of energy to climb over an energy barrier, which is known as Arrhenius suppression. But the research shows that ions actually act as delocalized wave packets, so they don't climb over the barrier at all. Instead, they use quantum tunneling to pass right through the classically forbidden region. This incredible trick allows our nervous system to maintain strict ion selectivity while still achieving ultra-high flux permeation.
So here is the breakdown of how quantum biology is literally powering your nervous system. By acting as delocalized wave packets and bypassing classical energy barriers, these particles are achieving what classical physics says is impossible. And it gets crazier. These tunneling events are happening at terahertz frequencies. We are talking about trillions of cycles per second. Some researchers even point out that classical physics effectively eliminates the causal efficacy of consciousness just because it's too slow. But quantum tunneling in ion channels and potentially in cellular structures called microtubules operates at the literal speed of life. Remember those 100 million neurons in your gut we talked about? This terahertz quantum tunneling is exactly what allows your enteric nervous system to coordinate digestion, metabolism, and mood instantaneously.
And that perfectly sets up our final section, the quantum mind-body connection, the synthesis. We've gone from macro gut anatomy all the way down to subatomic terahertz vibrations. Now, let's pull it back up to the macroscopic level and see what this actually means for human health. Quantum biology really adds a foundational layer to everything we've discussed today. We've seen how the gut and brain are linked physically, metabolically, and psychologically. Well, the vagus nerve, that massive superhighway connecting the brain, heart, and immune system, is now being hypothesized by researchers to act as a quantum channel. These coherent quantum effects allow for signaling that reduces inflammation, regulates metabolic states, and integrates our consciousness with our physical body far, far more efficiently than classical biology alone ever could. I want to leave you with this final thought. We started out looking at the gut, 100 million neurons constantly churning away, reacting to our food and our microbiome. We learned that it's this massive metabolic powerhouse and a psychological factory, producing the very chemicals that make us who we are. And now we know that driving all of this, hidden just beneath the surface, are the spectacular principles of quantum mechanics. So if our second brain operates on quantum principles to coordinate life so flawlessly, what other mysteries of human consciousness and healing are just waiting to be uncovered at the atomic level? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.